What's going on, everyone? I'm DSP, and welcome to episode 29 of Ask the King, the ongoing series where you can submit your questions to me, whether through my website, thekingofhate.com, my Twitter account, @TheyCallMeDSP, or my Facebook page, They Call Me DSP, or the fan page, They Call Me DSP1, and I answer some of these questions, kind of like a fan mail series. Now, I know that usually I do this this show on the last Thursday of every month. Unfortunately, now that we're into the hardcore gaming season of the year, there's so much going on with the gaming world. There's so many retail releases coming out that I've just been inundated and bombarded with games to play. And unfortunately, at the end of September, I was unable to film this episode, which is why I'm doing it today. Today is actually Monday, October 8th, 2012, so it's about a week and a half to 2 weeks late. What I want to let everyone know is, looking at the game schedule for the rest of the year, I really don't feel I'm going to have an opportunity to do another Ask the King until December, okay? So sometime in early December will be the next episode of Ask the King, and, excuse me, and, then I will probably have some really good questions saved up, because I'm sure people will have all kinds of questions about the games that I played and stuff over the next month and a half. So I've already created the thread on thekingofhate.com for the next episode. It's episode 29, so definitely check that out. You can begin to post your questions up there, okay? Now, I've got quite a lot of good questions this time around, and it's a mix between gaming stuff, personal stuff, all kinds of stuff. So I want to jump into it right away, but there are two common things that I want to address before we start. First of all, Project 7 and its status. I actually saw a lot of questions in Ask the King, not only from a couple months ago, but just from like today and a couple days ago, asking about when's the next episode of Project 7 coming out. Well, I put Pandali in Project 7. I guess you guys missed it, but a couple weeks ago in a channel update, I explained to everyone and announced that unfortunately Project 7 is on indefinite hiatus, due to the fact that Respect to the Pact had some changes happen in their life, and unfortunately they're unable to continue with the filmmaking, the editing, the effects, and all of that. They're not able to do it, and we don't have anyone to fill in that role right now. We have no problem with props. We actually have boxes. I'm not even kidding you. I have boxes of props that I had already bought to continue the series. We have ideas for the next several episodes kind of in our heads. We haven't written it down yet, but we know exactly what we want to do. We just don't have a film crew right now, okay? And an editing crew or an effects team. At this point, since we are in the hardcore gaming season, I am going to be far too busy to go out searching for people to do this. And therefore, we put the series on hiatus for now. We're not saying the series is over and it's never coming back, okay? What we're saying is right now there's just no way reasonably that we could actually progress with the series. We'll probably re-explore it in 2013 and see if we can bring it back, but I'll have more information on that in the future. The other thing that everyone's been asking me about, several people asked about this, is this new console, the Ouja or the Ouja? I'm not sure how the hell you pronounce it. The Ouija? I don't know. But it's an independent gaming console that actually was apparently made through Kickstarter. It only costs $99, and supposedly it's going to be insanely easy to develop games for it. Here's my feeling. Is it a great idea? Absolutely. Anyone, I mean, let's face it, everyone say, yeah, I'd love to pay only $100 and get a top-of-the-line gaming console, okay? Do I realistically think that it's going to succeed? I don't know, because now you're asking all of these developers who already make games for established consoles to find a way to develop these games for a new console. Is it going to be an easy transition to have the games that they're already designing, say, for the Xbox 360 to work on this? I don't know, because I don't know the technical explanations behind it. People are saying, yeah, it should be, but I can't say 100% yes. Therefore, I like the idea. I'd love to see how it gets implemented and if it works, okay? We've seen consoles with similar ideas, such as OnLive, that didn't do well and are actually filing for bankruptcy, probably because the infrastructure of the internet in the United States couldn't handle the idea. Will the developers be able to develop their games for this new console, or will this be another failed experiment? I don't know. Let's see, okay? Alright, now on to the questions for this episode of Ask the King. I've got a million of them, and by the way, I forgot to get my stopwatch. Hold on one second, because I definitely need to time myself here. I know I'm already probably a good 3 to 4 minutes in, which I'll check right now. Yep, I'm 5 minutes in. So I'm going to set my clock here for 20 minutes, and I'll stop around that, and then we'll go to part 2. Alright, so the first question is actually from an avid forum user. And here we go, timer. Okay. And his name is Captain Fireworks 2292, and he asks the following. Phil, there's a growing hatred on games with short campaigns that end up being fantastic, such as Transformers Fall of Cybertron, The Darkness 2, and so on. Now, I disagree with Transformers Fall of Cybertron, but actually The Darkness 2 was one of my favorite games of the year, so I agree with him there. My question is, should games with short campaigns have some kind of should games with short campaigns and some replayability cost $60, or should game companies lower the price to be $30 to $40 because of the new complaints of customers saying, listen, we don't want to pay full retail price, we'll either buy the game used for a significantly cheaper price or we'll just rent it. This is an interesting question. It did come up earlier this year when I played The Darkness 2, and I reviewed it very highly. It had roughly, I think, a 6.5 hour long campaign, but I really thought the story was outstanding, the pacing was well done, the gameplay was spot on. So it was 6.5 great hours of gameplay, and then there was actually cooperative campaigns online that you could play, so there was a lot of replayability in the game as well. But when I reviewed the game highly, people said, oh, this is a 6-hour game, there's no way Phil should have rated it this high, he doesn't know what he's doing, blah blah blah. Listen, for me, it's a combination. You've got quality, you've got quantity. You need to have a balance between the two in order for a game to be worth a full retail price. There are plenty of games out there that have 30 hours of gameplay, but they're boring. They're not fun. They're just addictive. A lot of these MMORPGs that I don't play fall into that line of games. Games where it's not anything spectacular, there's not even that much of a story, but you get hooked on the fact that the gameplay is so addictive that you play for hours on end. On the flip side of that, you've got games that might have outstanding gameplay presentation, but they end up being pretty short. And the question is, where is the perfect balance? The thing is, for everyone it's going to be different, okay? For me, as long as I had a really enjoyable experience playing a game and I don't feel like I threw away my money, I think that a game is good. Other people might say, no, I don't have a lot of money and I'm only in it for gameplay. I want a game that when I spend $60, I'm going to be playing it for several weeks. If that's the case, these shorter games aren't going to be for you. But that's honestly why you should look at stuff like my Hateful Truth reviews to figure out whether or not these games are for you. Now, Captain Fireworks is asking, should companies with these shorter campaigns lower the price of the games? Well, if they did sell that game for $30 to $40, there is an increased chance that the people who are buying the game, more people might jump on and buy it because they say, wow, it's only 40 bucks. That sounds like a good deal to me. I'll get that over a $60 game that maybe won't be as good. But at the same time, when you're originally selling a game for a cheaper price, some people immediately in their head says, oh, that's a discount title, it must not be that good. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Some people might take it the wrong way. In addition to that, I'm sure a game like The Darkness 2, I'll be honest, the graphics were great, the presentation was great, the story, the sound, the gameplay. I'm sure that that game had a significant development life. And to lose a potential profit of $20 that you deserve because you made a great game, I don't know if it's worth it. So it really is a slippery slope here. In my opinion, as I said, I think it's really going to depend on the person. I think that certain people understand that you're not going to get 100 hours of gameplay out of every game, and you want to have a better gameplay experience even if it's a shorter game and they think it's worth the 60 bucks. Some people are, no matter what, or don't even care about the gameplay, they just want something that has a lot of content because they want to have a game that's going to last them several weeks. And I can see both cases. For me, I'm a combination. I look for a balance. But it's hard for these game companies to hit the mark. I said this during my Darkness 2 review. I really feel that if they had added another 2 to 3 hours of gameplay, that it probably would have been out of place in the story. It would have ended up being repetitive and boring. That the game really hit it at the perfect length for the campaign, and I think they did a good job. So, it is what it is. You're always going to have the people that are going to complain about games that aren't 10 to 20 hours long, but at the same time you're going to have people who appreciate those games. I'm not sure how Darkness 2 did in sales numbers, but I hope that at least some people did try it out regardless of the fact that the campaign was a little bit on the shorter side. Okay. Next question is from Bleary Line 7. Now, he has a really long explanation. I'm going to summarize it. Basically, he says, Phil, you've said that lots of people don't subscribe to your channel because you put out so many videos a day, and they don't want to see their YouTube page be flooded with your videos only. But there is this function on YouTube called a show function, meaning you can create a series of videos, like, for example, My Week in Preview. I could make, even this, Ask the King, I could name it as a show on YouTube, include all the videos in there, and then people can apparently subscribe to this show function, okay? So he asks, why don't I do that? Why haven't I done that? Number one, because I never really understood the functionality of the show function, primarily because YouTube has no help center that really works. All it has is forums that really don't explain anything clearly, has no customer support to actually introduce new functions. All YouTube does is release new shit and not explain it to anybody. So I'm sure there are lots of people out there who know what the show function is, and then there's people like me, I don't know what the fuck it is, and I've never tried it, okay? Number two, I don't trust it. YouTube has had functions in the past that I've tried to use that just didn't work. For example, I used to use the schedule calendar function on YouTube. What it was you could have a listing of what games you were going to be playing out. It was really made for comedians, because comedians who were going to be doing stand-up comedy at a club or whatever, you could have a calendar that populated with this stuff. Well, I used to do this with my games. I'll be playing this game on this date, this game on this date. And then for like 6 to 8 months, it vanished. It didn't work. YouTube didn't address the problem, never fixed it. Then they finally did fix it, but then changed all the channel formats anyway, so it doesn't even exist anymore. So for me, I would rather just rely on the fact that, okay, I have a playlist. The playlist always gets updated when I put out a new episode of each one of these shows. So you know as a fan, oh, okay, a week passed, it's a weekly show, let me go check the playlist and I can watch it. I'd rather have you do that than rely on some function of YouTube that may or may not work or even be existing in another week. I don't trust YouTube. They fuck with their site far too much. You finally find something you like, they fuck with it and screw it up or take it away. So I'm not going to be messing around with the show's function, okay? Alright, next question. Hey Phil, after your Dawnguard playthrough, I noticed that you still have a bunch of unfinished side quests and miscellaneous quests. Any chance for a return to Skyrim in the future, as you did in New Vegas? Thanks, that's from Drew360. It is true that with Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, I did do a later series of videos of those games, like a Return to series, where I did a lot of the side content that I didn't have a chance to do during my campaign playthrough. The difference being here is that when I played Skyrim, I literally tried to do every single side quest that I could possibly do during that campaign, okay? Now, I'm fully aware that there's a very small amount of quests I didn't do. For example, the Thieves Guild, I never really completed the quest line for Thieves Guild, because what you're supposed to do is do some of the trivial thieving side quests, and then when you go back, there's like a final ending to it where you get some armor or something, I don't know. But it didn't appeal to me. Keep in mind, I had the Collector's Edition strategy guide of Skyrim. I looked through it for all the quests that I thought were the major plot lines, and I completed all of those in my single, campaign playthrough of the game. Unlike Fallout and New Vegas and Fallout 3, where I accidentally skipped stuff or didn't know about stuff and skipped it, I was actively using the guide during my playthrough of Skyrim. I used it to do most of the major stuff. I feel that my Skyrim playthrough for the official regular game is complete. Now, as I do DLCs in the future, I may go back and do other stuff, but most of the side quests and things that are left over are just trivial stuff. Looking them over, I really didn't see anything else significant that I would want to go back and do. So it's a little bit different situation between Fallout and Skyrim, okay? Okay, up next. The next question is from Jolly African American, and he says, Phil, I think you need to answer, he says, I think you need to update and refine the list of questions that you will not answer. The reason I say this is because I haven't seen you reply to legitimate questions such as the following. And he goes to list several questions. So you know what? Since he's saying basically that I've been ignoring legitimate questions, let's go through his list of questions, okay? The first question, will you consider medicinal cannabis to ease the pain of your ruptured discs? You state that your state actually legalized medical use of marijuana this year. I'll answer that question. Number one, I don't have ruptured discs, okay? I have a severely herniated disc, which honestly, if you want my opinion, I haven't had another MRI or anything like that recently, but it's been doing a hell of a lot better. I think that maybe the herniation is going away because I've been using this back stretcher recently that's building up all the muscles in my back, which is helping to support my back more. And as you know, the past several years I've adapted my lifestyle, so I'm not lifting heavy objects, I'm not doing lots of strenuous physical activity that may screw me up. So number one, I don't think I would need it, but number two, I absolutely hate smoking, okay? Not that it's marijuana or anything, I just hate smoking. I did it when I was younger. I tried cigarettes, I tried cigars, yeah, I'll admit it, I did have some weed when I was younger. I mean, who didn't? By the way, I didn't really like it that much. It wasn't anything that like I got hooked on and I would want to go back to or anything like that. But I just hated having smoke in my lungs. It would make me cough, it would make me feel nasty. And my mom also, her whole life was a smoker, and I was in a smoking environment. And now that I'm free of it, now that I've been living in my own place for over 3 years now, I don't ever want to go back to that. I hate the smell of smoke. I hate everything about it. So, no, I would not consider using medicinal cannabis. Second question, what kind of video cables do you use? He doesn't specify what I'm talking about. What I can tell you is, for the most part, I use HDMI cables for my PlayStation 3 and also for my Xbox 360. They go to either the receiver and then to the TV or straight to the TV, okay? For the older systems, such as my PlayStation 2, I've got that hooked up with component cables, and as well as the Nintendo Wii, I have that hooked up with component cables. So there you go. What shoe size do you wear? Well, that could be completely different depending on the kind of shoe. I wish that the shoe sizes would be universal, but they never seem to be. I fluctuate between a 12 and a 13. Yeah, that's right, I know it's huge, but usually around a 12 and a half is where U.S. sizes, by the way. I know Europe has different sizing, but around 12 and a half American size is what I wear. What kind of doorknobs do you have? Well, I have the kind that when you turn them, the door opens and or goes into a locking position. I don't know what anyone else has. And then finally, how much does a crosstown bus ticket cost? Well, if I was still living where I lived quite a while ago, back when I lived with my parents, I could probably have a more accurate answer for you. But since I moved to my condo, I never used the bus. I've had a car. So I couldn't tell you the cost of a crosstown bus ticket here because I don't know, because I haven't used the bus since I moved here. Okay, next question. Let's see how I'm doing on time. I'm doing pretty good here. Okay, next question. Dear Phil, I've been a fan of yours for many years, and you're actually the reason I started my own YouTube channel. My question is, do you have any advice for a new YouTuber who's getting started with a gaming channel? And that's from the Gamer J. Lee. I do have some advice for you. What I would have to say is, first of all, you have to understand that the situation, the status of YouTube right now is drastically different than it was 4 years ago when I started doing video game playthroughs in 2008, okay? Back then, it was like, to find a full game playthrough from start to finish was extremely rare. And even then, when you found one, there usually wasn't any commentary. It was someone doing like direct feed, okay? That's why really I feel my videos took off. When I started doing the camera footage with me talking during the whole time, people thought, wow, this is so different. Today, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and the reason I say that is, unfortunately, now gaming channels have found a way to become partnered through Machinima, through the Game Station, through a couple other channels as well. And because of this, people are now, instead of doing it for the fun of it, they see dollar signs, okay? Which means whenever money's involved, you're going to get massive amounts of competition. So unlike in 2008, when you can maybe open up a cool independent gaming channel and play whatever games you want or whatever, and you might have a chance to be noticed, you're going to notice today there's so much content on YouTube that it's hard to get noticed, okay? And even for me, I'm going to be completely honest with everyone, doing the more popular games like Resident Evil 6, even though I'm a well-known YouTuber, even though I have a dedicated fan base, even that took a while for me to even get decent views on those videos, okay? Because everyone on the planet is doing it. So my greatest advice to anyone right now who's trying to get a gaming channel going would be, number one, don't do it for the money. If you're doing it solely for the money, you're going to feel unfair pressure, you're not going to enjoy what you're doing as much as you should be, and your stuff's not going to be feeling genuine, and people might not connect with it. What you need to do is you need to play games that you enjoy, play games that you love, possibly do games that maybe not everyone else is doing, you know? Maybe doing a Minecraft playthrough isn't a good idea because everyone under the fucking sun has already done a Minecraft playthrough, okay? Try to find something unique, and I know that can be hard, again, because like I said, so many people are doing video games on YouTube. But if you're one of the few people who does a playthrough on a game, and it ends up being an entertaining playthrough and it's unique for a certain reason, people may watch. And that's really the best advice I can give anyone. I mean, my case of being independent, never associating myself with other YouTubers, bigger YouTubers, the fact that I kind of came up out of nowhere and in 4 years have exploded on YouTube. I got over 200 million views just on DSPGaming. Finally, people actually tallied and said, Phil, of all the channels that you've been involved in on YouTube, you have over 390 million total views and something like over 25,000 videos you've uploaded to YouTube. I mean, what the fuck? It baffles the mind, okay? 390 million views in 4 years. That's pretty good. It's going to be hard for someone to replicate what I've done because the climate has changed. This happens with every industry. So don't feel bad if what you're trying to do isn't taking off at first, but what I would say is keep doing what you're doing as long as you enjoy it. If you're enjoying it, it doesn't matter if it ever catches on. As long as you're enjoying what you're doing, it's not a waste of your own time. And who knows, maybe you'll luck out like me and you will make it big. Okay? Next question. Hey Phil, ever since you and John Rambo decided to simulate the pay-per-view matches for WWE 12, I was wondering if you would host your own version of the Slammy Awards near the end of the year, making your own categories based on surprising and funny stuff that happened during the simulations. And that's from Shadow Thief Omega. Funny thing you mentioned that, because I just mentioned in a channel update... Ooh, what the hell happened there? I just mentioned, not my channel update, in my weekend preview yesterday, that I will actually be doing a special series of year-end videos of the best simulated matches of the year. This year we did so many pay-per-view simulations, we did some exhibition matches, and we really want to kind of highlight and focus on the best ones of the year. So I'm going to be getting together with John Rambo, and together we're going to personally make our picks for our favorite matches of the year, and we're going to do a video series of that for the year-end, okay? Next question. Dear Phil, like many other YouTubers, you may have kids who watch your videos. What my question is do you think that children should be watching your videos? And if they are watching this actual Ask the King that you're doing right now, what would you have to say to them? I want to know what your thoughts are about this, as I've been a fan since your Heavy Rain playthrough, and I was actually 11 back then. But now I'm in my teens, and I've watched feeling like I was a part of a forgotten minority of your fan base. Thanks, and that's from Methane. That's very interesting. It's interesting that here's someone who back with Heavy Rain in, what was it, 2009 or 2000, I think it was 2009, but it could have been 2010, has been a fan of mine for several years, is now a teenager, and is wondering what my feelings are. Here's the thing, okay? Different things are good for different people. Some people are mature at an earlier age, more mature than others, and they get the joke. Some people, unfortunately, will watch stuff like my stuff, and they'll go to school and they'll say, fucking shit and cocks and dicks and bup-ba-da-bup-ba-bup, and that's obviously not what you should be doing, okay? In my personal feeling, okay, it really is going to be a parental decision. If a parent feels that their child is mature enough to handle mature language and jokes and stuff like I do in my content, then let them watch it, okay? But I don't think that little children should be watching. Obviously, I use adult language. Obviously, I have adult humor, sexual humor. That, no, a child should not be exposed to this kind of stuff, okay? At the same time, there has to come a point in someone's life when they have to be exposed to this stuff, you know what I mean? And maybe it's better to be exposed to it in a way like me, where you know there's not going to be any nudity, you know there's not any malicious intentions, versus watching some fucking porno on TV, you know what I mean? Skinamax, or accidentally stumbling upon racist content of some neo-Nazi asshole, you know what I mean? Like, there's some bad ways that kids can get exposed to mature content. My feeling is this. It is ultimately the parent's decision on when a child and or teenager is mature enough to watch stuff. But my feeling is, when I was a teenager, I started watching mature stuff, R-rated movies. That's what I equate my stuff with. It's R-rated movie, okay? And my parents would let me watch some and not let me watch other stuff. Generally, if it was on TV, my parents, when I was a teenager, would let me watch it. They didn't give a shit. So, it really is a parent's decision, but ultimately, I think my content is probably around your teenage years is when my content starts to make sense. You'll start to get some of the more adult humor, the mature jokes. And I don't think that any teenager, as long as they're not completely idiotic, is going to go and start, oh, hey baby, look at those big titties, right in the middle of like the classroom or something. You know what I mean? If you do that, you're a fucking idiot. And you know that I'm doing it because it's not a real person, it's joking around, it's a video game. You don't do that to people in real life. It's just for comedy and entertainment when I do it. I don't do that in real life either. I don't walk up to Pandalini and say, hey baby, nice giant heaving boobies or anything like that, you know. So, you know there's a line. Once you're mature enough to understand that line between comedy and the real world, that's really when I think you should be able to watch my content. I don't think there's an age you can put on that. It's more of a judgment of your parents, honestly. That's my honest feeling. Alright, one more question, I think, and then I'm going to have to stop this this part. Phil, you said many times in your older videos that you spent a considerable amount of time playing and practicing in fighting games such as Street Fighter during the 90s and early to mid and even late 2000s. As a result, you stated that you never really had time to play other major releases during that time. In retrospect, do you regret putting aside such a large amount of time on one genre of games when you could have been playing a larger variety of different games? And do you think you accomplished what you set out to do in the fighting game community? And that's from Terror Hurts, okay? Do I regret spending all of that time? Let me put it this way. There are times when I do regret the fact that I was only playing Street Fighter and I did miss out on a lot of stuff. I look back now and I say, damn, I'm 30 years old and there was a lot of time that I was spent in arcades traveling to play Street Fighter that I could have been doing other things that younger people do. Whether it was playing other video games, whether it was doing other kinds of cool stuff that younger people do. And especially now that my back's messed up, I do kind of have a little bit of a sadness there that maybe there were some physical things that I would have liked to do, like backpacking through areas and stuff that I can't do now because of my back, okay? At the same time, I don't regret the experiences that I got out of Street Fighter, okay? I met people across the entire country. I met people from Canada, from Mexico, from Puerto Rico, from Japan, from Europe. I met people from the entire world, and I traveled to Chicago, to Florida, to Texas, to Las Vegas, to California multiple times. All the tri-state, New York, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Maine, all the way down to Virginia, to Maryland, all these places, Georgia, I would have never visited, or if I would have, I might have not had a chance or an opportunity to visit it in the way that I did because of Street Fighter. So in that regard, I had a blast. The people that I met, the friends that I made, the fun that I had, the competitive nature of Street Fighter, I wouldn't give that up for the world, okay? Now, as to saying, do I feel that I accomplished what I set to do in the fighting game community? Well, what did I really do? What I did is I kind of proved that someone who doesn't really dedicate themselves full time, because I didn't, it was my hobby. I wasn't spending hundreds of hours a week doing it like some people, and I'll say it, Justin Wong, he was playing these games hundreds of hours a week. He was every day playing like 6 to 8 hours to get as good as he did. He was traveling to every single tournament. That's why Justin Wong is so damn good at what he does, because he's a hard fucking worker, okay? And I do hate people that kind of say, oh, he's just good, he's good. No, he was a hard-ass worker to get to where he got, okay? I never did that, but I was still able to be successful in my Street Fighter career. I was placing in tournaments. I got 4th place at the Nationals of EVO. I won the East Coast qualifier of EVO 2 years in a row, and in 1 year I traveled to all the EVO qualifiers and placed in every single one of them except for one. I even went to the West Coast qualifier, who most people on the West Coast hate my guts, and I got 5th place in their qualifier. So yeah, I think it's a big accomplishment to say that those things are there. And even though people might dispute them and say, oh, it wasn't the right version of the game, and this or that, and they try to find technicalities to write off what I've done, the fact remains that my rankings will be there forever, and you can't take that away from me, okay? Now my life has changed, and I'm doing things that are more mainstream, but I'm still playing fighting games and enjoying them. So now I like the fact that I have this pro background, and I can give that kind of background and education to a whole new breed of gamers. So do I regret what happened with Street Fighter? Absolutely not. I enjoyed it, even though it was a lot of time investment, a lot of money investment, and I missed out on a lot of other stuff that I could have been doing. I think that really, it gave me a perspective to be able to be a pro, but also a common gamer at the same time right now, and that's why a lot of the stuff that I do on YouTube is kind of unique, and I think that's why a lot of people enjoy my content. So, no, I don't regret it. I do feel that I am accomplished in the Street Fighter community, and let's leave it at that. So that's it for part 1 of Ask the King.